Need a motion to approve resolution number 117-2021.
So moved.
Who made the motion? Okay, and do we have a second?
Second it for you.
All right, have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Ms. Ackley?
I have a question for Mr. Miller. The gentleman with the Pony League had said that it was donated by a family, that land was donated by a family. Do you know if it was the donation, what was the intent of the donation?
For recreation. There's a language in the deed that requires it to be for public recreation, but it doesn't specifically talk about a sport.
Is it for like specific age group?
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't completely hear what he said. Okay,
Yeah, it's public recreation is the intent.
okay.
Yes.
And the other thing I wanted to add, clearly there's a lot of people who want to play pickleball, which I think is a great thing. I'm very much in support of the park and recreation in the county. And I'm just wondering, we have 100 acres at the West Metro. That seems like that would be a perfect spot for not just pickleball of 12 to 16 courts, but you could have 2, 3, 4 regulated basketball courts. And so I guess I'm wondering, why are we honing in on this baseball field when we have land that everyone could have what they want?
I think there's a number of reasons why Harman is a better option for that. As far as the West Metro goes, a master plan will be done where we'll determine how to use that piece of property. But as far as Harmon Field, it's been mentioned in the public comments, the central location is a key component to that. It's accessible to everybody, and I think if you're going to have a hub facility like that for pickleball for everybody to be able to access, you want that centrally located, and Salisbury is that place. Secondly, I think if you were to put this somewhere else in the outskirts, I think you reduce or eliminate your chances to do really the major national type events that we're talking about. As I noted in the work session on October 5th, you're within walking distance of the Civic Center, you're in walking distance of the YMCA, you've got City Park within walking distance, you've got the Elks that have publicly agreed to support the efforts, you've got the City of Salisbury donating. You have everything there, and it's just ideal for that type of activity. Thirdly, if you move it to another location, you're forfeiting $300,000 from the YMCA. The YMCA is not going to partner and donate $300,000 if we're located on the west side of the county.
Okay.
And I think, and again, this has been noted, but the Harman Foundation, the Harman name, has come to the forefront again. It disappeared for a long, long time, and we brought it to the forefront here. And I think we have an opportunity to honor the Harman name and the Harman Foundation and the original intent, which is to bring people to that park and to make it active again. And I think what's happened is it sat vacant, and I think this is the opportunity now to elevate that again to become what it once was. So I think what we've proposed, I think, is the right plan for pickleball. So
I'm not sure if Sharptown, Mardella, and West Side would agree with the location, the perfect location being in Salisbury, but okay.
So, any more comments? Mr. Hastings, did you have a comment?
I'll go.
Okay, Mr. Holloway, go ahead.
First off, I've got a statement to read, but I had some questions. In the agreement, it says you're hoping to connect to the stormwater management plan at the YMCA. Has that ever been rectified, that it's...
that's not been determined yet. So
we don't know that we can hook to that.
No, so we have discussed with Parker and Associates. He's actually, Brock Parker's here, so he can answer specific questions on stormwater. What the Y has given us permission to do is to explore that possibility. We hope that we can tie in. If we can't, we have budgeted approximately $300,000 of that million, which would be for site planning, engineering, stormwater. And Mr. Parker's assured us that if that doesn't work, there would be other options, and I'm sure he would be happy to speak to that.
So we're saying it was going to be $700,000 from the state, and 300,000 from the YMCA. But now we're saying that the stormwater management might cost 300,000. That would come out of what, the 700,000?
It's part of that budget. It's part of the $1 million budget.
So if we hook into the Y, we don't have to spend the 300, right?
I don't know what it would cost. That's something that would be determined. We've not paid for engineered site plans. One, because we don't have the money for engineered site plans until the project gets approved, and then we'll move forward with that hopefully tomorrow. But we're confident that we'll be able to work that out and work within. And I think this is an important point. I know this question's been raised. We're committed to work within the $1 million budget. We've executed many, many projects. I could give you a long list of them. And we would want to extend this project as far as we can with $1 million, and we would stay within that number.
We're talking about a pretty big spread of $300,000. I mean, there could be a lot more done if you could hook into the Y stormwater. Excuse me. Right.
Correct. And there's flexibility with any project when you're talking about restroom facilities or lights or amenities. You can scale those things. You can eliminate them. You can upgrade them. You can scale them. So I have no doubt that we will be able to spend $1 million and deliver a very first-class complex to the folks sitting behind us.
Now, if we approve the 700,000 from the state in the first proclamation,
Resolution.
first resolution, I'm sorry. And we don't approve, for whatever reason, we don't approve doing the project, can that money be still used and transferred?
What money?
The 700,000?
The 700,000 is for Harmon Field. That's what the state is intending to approve tomorrow.
Okay, but that wasn't my question. If
If you say yes to the 700 and no to the 300,
no, I didn't say we were going to say no to the 300. I guess we would be saying no to the 300.
if you're saying no to the Y, we say no to the 300. So what we've done is, if that's the way this goes, we've made a $1 million project a $700,000 project, and the project would be scaled back and diminished.
We'd still get the 700.
Yeah, we get 700, but we would scale back the project, and it would not be as nice as what it would be.
The other question, has the county ever entered into an agreement with anyone other than a governmental agency in our county, either public or nonprofit or private, similar to this? Is there anything that we've
Yeah,
ever done?
you've got the equestrian. We lease to the equestrians, an annual lease at the Equestrian Center. We lease to the Little Leagues. We have a lease with the Delmarva Shorebirds for Purdue Stadium, which we own. We actually have a lease with the Salvation Army. I don't know if you know that. We own that property, and we have a 49-year lease with the Salvation Army for $1 a year, whereas the Y's kicking in $300,000. We're getting a pretty good value here.
Is that basically the same kind of agreement that we've got?
They're all different. They're all they're not all exactly the same.
I do have a statement. I typed this out because I wouldn't remember it all. We've got a pretty impressive crowd here on both sides. One thing I didn't see is the Pony League. It was all the kids that they benefit. They didn't bring all of them with them, and if they had it done, I guess the room would have been 3 times as full. But I'd like to say I support the idea of the county building pickleball fields. So I don't want anybody in this audience to say Joe Holloway doesn't support pickleball. I've done a lot of reading. Haven't bought my paddle yet, but I think it's coming. It's a great sport. It deserves promoting. But before I vote on this matter, I want to bring some information forward, explain further my thoughts on it. 2009, our former Rec and Parks Director brought a proposal to the council to purchase land on the west side of Wicomico County for a much-needed park, now known as the West Metro Core Parkland. The proposal was to purchase 100 acres for $2 million. After some research, 100 acres of land was purchased for $1 million, which was close by to the first parcel they just. This proposed park was supposed to mirror the park on the east side of the county, known as Winter Place Park. After 12 years, this $1 million piece of land still sits vacant. only being leased to local farmers. The excuse is that several other projects have taken precedent over the West Metro Core Park. So $1 million of taxpayers' money. Now, I know I'm going to hear, when I say that, I'm going to hear people say, oh, it's program open space. But what we got to remember is every dollar that comes from the state or the county or any other government agency is money that's paid in by taxpayers. I mean, the state doesn't have a printing press. Anyway, so $1 million of taxpayers' money was spent on land that has never benefited the citizens of our county. Some of the same people that supported the West Metro Core project in 2009 are now showing support for this current pickleball project. Some of the other projects that were deemed more important than the West Metro Core land and funds were allotted are the large expansion of a much-needed ball fields at Henry Parker Park, construction of Pirates Wharf, which was stressed not being anything like the West Metro Core Park. Then we had the acquisition of the Conley Mill land. This one was pretty interesting as it presented a great opportunity for park expansion and was also needed for the dirt for cover at our landfill. Since we acquired that land, the Public Works Department has said that it's now too costly to move the dirt from that location, and now they want to purchase land closer to the landfill. So just in that aspect of it, there's hundreds of acres close to Salisbury that would be good for pickleball courts. In the meantime, Rec and Parks returned to the council with a proposal to do a land conversion, which means they were going to get rid of the land at West Metro, transfer that money that came from program open space to the Conley Mill property. This will mean that with the council's approval, the West Metro Core Parkland would disappear and there'd never be a park in that area. Now, for the Harmon Field proposal, in the past 2 decades, Wicomico County has spent millions of dollars on new ball fields. Not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but millions. According to our Rec and Parks, Harmon Field has now fell into disrepair. A good question would be why? It has been said that nobody is using the field. Perhaps the reason for that was the signs that were posted saying the field was closed. Rec and Parks are the ones that do the scheduling for the use of our fields and are ones that are responsible for the maintenance and the upkeep of our parks. So why is this field in disrepair? You know, there were signs posted and they disappeared, some of them. I don't know who took them down. I've personally witnessed school-age children from the neighborhood. Now, you got to remember where this park's at. Everybody's been talking about where it's at. Hundreds of kids live in that neighborhood. And I've unfortunately have to visit the funeral home over there because this past year we've had a lot of folks that's passed away, and going to ED Supply and some of the other businesses in that area. I'm in that area quite a bit, and dozens of times I've witnessed kids playing softball, baseball on that field. Not organized sports, just kids playing sandlot baseball or softball. We have vast acreage of land in Wicomico County to build pickleball fields on without disturbing that ball field. YMCA, which is a great organization, does a great job, has room there to build pickleball fields if they wanted to. The citizens of Wicomico County, and especially the pickleball players, I think, are being shortchanged. With this proposed agreement, when there's so many other locations in the county that would benefit from a system of pickleball courts. I'll name a few: Cedar Hill Park, Billie Jean Jackson, Cope Bennett, Eastside Sports Complex. By the way, I was at Eastside Sports Complex this morning. I had a phone call, and I thought I was going to catch some grief right out of bed. Came pretty early. And a fellow introduced himself. He says, "I'm an avid pickleball player." I thought, okay, here we go, 7:30 in the morning. He said, "I want to know why they're not putting these pickleball courts either at Winter Place or at the East Side ball fields down in Willards. He said it's the perfect place for them, lots of land. He said, and by the way, I'd like for you to go down to Willards and look at the two tennis courts down there. He said they're grown up in grass, they're unusable even for tennis courts. So anyway, Henry Parker Park, Mason-Dixon Sports Complex, Winter Place Park. Somebody mentioned the Civic Center, standing at the podium a few minutes ago. I hadn't written that down. You know, over the years, the Civic Center has hosted nighttime basketball, not tournaments, just places where people could go play basketball. There's no reason why the Civic Center couldn't do that. There's no reason why they couldn't open the Civic Center. Wouldn't that be great on them 100-degree days if people could go inside the Civic Center and play? I know Chuck's sitting there going, oh, my God, don't do that to me. But that would be great for people to be able to go inside the Civic Center. The Civic Center is not utilized as much as it should be or could be. So anyway, we've been talking about the West Metro Core Park. You know, we spent $1 million buying that land. We've approved, what, $100 and some thousand over the years to study it. When we bought it, it was supposed to mirror Winter Place. I don't know why we had to really have engineering studies other than where things went. We kind of knew what we wanted when we bought it. But it was supposed to mirror that, and we could have the pickleball capital of the world at that park. You know, elected officials like myself often like to brag about fiscal responsibility. There's nothing physically responsible about tearing down a perfectly good ball field, a ball field that the youth of our county is using or could use more. You know, I've heard that 100 times over the past few years. People come to the podium, we need more ball fields. There's nothing, you know, $1 million worth of property sitting there. And you guys are up here, and I appreciate you being here. You guys are up here wanting to play pickleball and wanting a place to play. And I guess we've sit on our hands for all these years, and nothing's happened over there. So anyway, hopefully this information will give you an insight why I have a problem with this current project. Not against the idea of a developing space. It's a great sport. Like I say, I've been reading about it. If I ever get old enough to play, I might play. I'm not old enough yet, maybe. But anyway, so anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Hastings.
I don't have a prepared statement, but I will say, you know, as a person who, my everyday job, and no, it's not sitting up here for anyone who thinks that, my everyday job is actually working in parks and recreation, natural resources, and conservation. So my everyday job, I get to spend my time to try to make sure that we protect funds like program open space, which is 1% of every real estate transaction. For any of you who have ever sold a piece of property, your money goes right back in there. What I'm hearing tonight is that I got a room full of people who love and care about open space and care about recreation. We've got, you know, Wicomico is, I'm really actually quite happy to say, you know, we've all, this has really become a county that has been known for its open space, its parks and recreation. And we've got a great community of folks, not just the Pony League, you know, but I mean, I grew up playing baseball and softball and soccer and all the rest of these. I played on almost every field in the county. But we've also got a group of folks like the pickleball family. You know, my dad was part of that. I know see Mr. Hansen in the hallway. See, you know, Donna, Jeff, others. That's a really good group of folks. And to only have a couple courts available is kind of ridiculous for the demand that is out there. Certainly, we have the ability to find better spaces for the Pony League. And it sounds like we've got some great folks who are part of the Pony League who want to help make that happen. You know, we've got great leadership. Say what you will, you know, out of all the counties in the state of Maryland, you know, Steve Miller is actually, he leads our work sitting right here. he is actually one of the most well-respected individuals in the entire state when it comes to parks and recreation and understanding how to utilize the assets that you have. So for me, this is a very much it's been said 100 times tonight, but a quote-unquote no-brainer. We've got a willing partner in the YMCA who understands this location it's not just that you can put pickleball courts anywhere, which, by the way, I hope we put pickleball courts in Sharptown, Mardella, Hebron. Let's put them anywhere and everywhere. But for the meantime, this particular location is important because this partnership allows for the community that my dad, when he was alive, that he grew out, he got to enjoy that, the YMCA community. That is without a doubt, is producing a lot, its own family. This is an extension of that family to be able to utilize a space. We've got $700,000 coming in free money from the state of Maryland. So this makes a lot of sense for this location here, and redoing the basketball courts and actually making this, I'm sure the Harmon family would be very happy from this. Is the second location, by the way, not the first. If it's been missed on a couple of folks here, but this location here, we can make this into something really special. This is going to be another jewel in the great collection of jewels that we have in Wicomico County when it comes to recreation and parks. So what I'm saying here, I'll close my comments, but say I fully support this as it is. I don't need to say much more, but let's work with the Pony League and anyone else who's been utilizing this court to find the right spaces now so that they can not only just manage and do well, but excel, So there's enough demand behind this. Let's please make this happen. I'm happy to support it, and I'm happy to see all of you here, whether you care about basketball, softball, or pickleball. It's great to see so many folks who actually care about the thing that I really care about and spend my time. So thank you all for being here, and thank you, Mr. President.
Ms. Ackley.
I just had another question, Mr. Miller. How many pickleball courts are there in the county?
So we have 16 line courts, but there's only 4 exclusive courts. So some of the like Winter Place Park, they're shared lines, so it's shared between tennis and pickleball.
Okay.
But as far as exclusive courts, and 2 of them I will know are in Sharptown.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and for the record, I know it's been mentioned a couple times. I think you need a hub facility like Parker, but to have other facilities as well, like in Sharptown, like potentially at the West Metro or wherever, I think that's a good thing. So I'm certainly not opposed to that and would be in favor of that. But to answer your question, there's 4. We have 2 at Kilburney and 2 in Sharptown. Those are the only exclusive.
What about Centennial? Is that?
Centennial, there's
Is that
tennis
not-
courts. Actually, a neighbor actually drew lines on without our permission. So, off the,
You got a
off
bunch
the
of
record.
criminals out there.
Yeah.
And then what about Cedar
We'll
Hill?
find them. Cedar Hill is another example of shared courts, shared tennis. It's shared tennis pickleball.
Okay.
So and that works to a degree, but there's conflict.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
we saw it at Billie Jean Jackson. Mr. Davis was out there for a turn. We did a pickleball tournament, and some of the residents that were out there were concerned. They said, "Hey, what happens if the Sunday morning basketball guys show up? They're going to be coming to expecting to play basketball, and there's pickleball here. So to give them their own facility, you eliminate a lot of that conflict."
So when you're looking at the planning phases of this, what is the possibility of putting these pickleball courts and the basketball courts at the West Metro?
Again, I don't think that's not the proposal of what we're putting forward. And again, I think the West Metro is a different conversation. It will be a different plan. And I think what we want to do is develop a plan that makes sense for the West Metro. What we think makes sense for this project is Harmon Field.
Why shouldn't it be part of this conversation? I mean, we're talking about building pickleball fields somewhere, and I mean, I don't understand why this shouldn't be part of the conversation.
It can be part of the conversation, and again, I think as we plan for the West Metro and go through a master planning process, we're going to be asking the question: what makes sense? What do you want to put out there? Absolutely, I think pickleball should be part of that discussion. Softball, football, whatever the public determines is in the best interest of the residents in that area. I think that's what we ought to consider, but.
I'm listening to these gentlemen from the Pony League, and I apologize because I did not know what Pony stood for, but I know that area. Kids walk there and that don't have transportation or don't have parents at home after school to take them places, and they're a vulnerable population, and so I just I don't want to see that end when we have other land that we can put pickleball at. It just seems like it's disrupting something that really doesn't need to be disrupted.
I've got a couple
Yeah.
comments.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to make the couple things I want to address before we go any further. The West Metro Core Park, that's a different conversation. That is not part of it's not a question of do we do this at Harmon Field or the West Metro Core Park. There were some misstatements made about that, and several of us were on that council when we purchased that land. That land was purchased at that time period because of the real estate boom that was taking place, and the majority of that growth was on the west side of our county. Thus, that land was purchased with that anticipation. However, and literally within a year or two of that purchase, the real estate market, as we all know, crashed, and all that growth stopped. And that changed the desire, and it changed the interest for the park at that time. And because of that, it wasn't that other things were given other priority, it's just that the economic climate, due to the housing market, changed that purpose. Now, the possibility of something still going in the future, that's definitely a possibility. Mr. Miller has stated that several times. But that's an entire planning process. We go through public hearings, a master plan, et cetera. So, and both of these things can be done, but that's a different project. Another thing that was brought up was, the use of Harmon Field and so forth. Hey, I belong to the Y. I go to the Y almost every day. I was there this morning. I go most days. And I see the use of the field. Seldom do you see anybody on that field. And Steve gave us the stats about the usage of that field, particularly compared to other fields. And like a lot of people, when they asked who played on that field, a lot of people raise their hand. I'm one of those people. I played there years ago when I used to play fast pitch softball. So, but it's an underutilized facility. The main point of all this is not, it's not about pickleball versus pony league. The proposal is a basketball and pickleball complex on the Harmon Field property. It's not a proposal or are we going to do pickleball courts and basketball or pony league field? No, and the dollars we're seeking is not to develop a pony league field on that park. And I will be the first one here because, people say they're baseball guys. I'm a baseball guy. When I was 20 years old, the Eastern Shore Baseball League, it still exists today. 40 years later, I was a college kid coming home playing. I was a college baseball player, but nowhere to play in the summer when I came home. And in 1980, Kevin Beard and I started the Eastern Shore Baseball League. 40 years later, it's still there. And I can tell you now, and Mr. Miller has said it numerous times, he will work with the Pony League folks, to find fields that are suitable if there's the need for expansion. And I will say, as a council person, I will help in any way I can to make that happen because I want to see that. But Harmon Field, the proposal we got in front of us is and the dollars that are proposed is for this proposed project. And you would not put it in, he talked about the West Metro Core Park, as Mr. Miller has said, you want a hub facility in the core of your community where the most population is. That's why it makes so much sense to have this at Harmon Field. When you have tournaments, et cetera, we've got all kinds of courts that we can temporarily use with literally walking distance. And that's what makes this so attractable and such a potential economic benefit in the future for Wicomico County. So I just want to say, I want to thank all of you that have taken your time to come out here this evening and very elegantly and positively, express your desire to see, something that's going to make Wicomico County a better place for all of us to live. And, I'm excited about this project. And I said this when Mr. Miller gave his presentation at the Civic Center, and we had almost 250 people there in support of this. And those people all, were positive about this. And the comment I made that night was, I've not seen this much excitement for a recreational project in this county since we did Shorebird Stadium. And that's great. That's what we want. We want people to be excited about something like this. So anyhow, it is an opportunity that's very simple. The dollars are there. The fact that we're getting, the $700,000 from the state and the YMCA, their willingness to contribute to a project that it's going to be the county's project, and we're the county, and we're not actually putting county capital dollars into this, but it's going to be our part. I mean, that's just, what an opportunity. So it is a no-brainer. I certainly hope the council supports it. I know I definitely support it, and I want to thank all of you for your comments tonight.
If I can make
More comment?
one comment, Mr.
Yeah, Mr. Miller, go ahead.
Just with respect to the Pony League, I appreciate the gentleman that spoke tonight and appreciate the mission of the Pony League, and we would certainly support them and any other group. And I'll say this publicly, we'd be happy to work with them to find places to play. We don't want kids to not have places to play, so we're happy to work and meet with anybody. And I'll also note that this winter, we also got grant funding to put lights on fields 7 and 8 at the athletic complex, so we're going to have all 8 ball fields lighted out there, which gives more opportunity, particularly in the fall, because it's difficult to play in the fall as it gets dark early. We're going to have 8 lighted ball fields out there, so there's going to be more opportunities, and again, we'll work with anybody to give kids opportunities.
So when you say you work with the Pony League, does that mean you're going to build them a field?
No, not at all. Okay. No, I'm saying we will help them find a field, whether it's a county field or some other field. We would be happy to help any group. If they truly don't have a place to play, we will find them and help them find a place to play.
Mr. Miller, if we tabled this and gave you some time to work with the Pony League to see if you could come up with something for them, would you be able to do it by the next meeting?
I don't think that's necessary. And I'll just give you one example. Mr. Dodd brought up the Pony League the last time. I made one phone call that day. We made one phone call to East Wicomico Little League. Hey, anybody using your ball fields? No one's using the fields. There's Little Leagues, there's Board of Education, there's county fields, there's municipal fields, there's Salvation Army has fields. There's a lot of fields. I can tell you we have not been contacted about it outside of what's been said at this meeting. We'll work with anybody. I don't think it will be that difficult to be able to find ball fields.
I've been involved with Little League for many years, and I can tell you it's not fair to them to ask another league to come play on their fields when they're trying to raise monies to stay in existence. It's very difficult to put board members together to work on the same field and to share the same field. It's not a good idea, but Mr. Cannon, do you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. Everybody remembers, glad to see so many people coming out tonight. That's so important. That's so important to this process. I think everybody certainly remembers when Ronald Reagan so sarcastically made the comment, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you, right? Well, tonight, we are the government, and the government is here to help you. That's how I see this. That's how I see this project. And I'm glad to see there's so much input. As a council person, you have your own beliefs as far as what you think should or shouldn't be done. But you can't overlook what the public thinks and what the public wants. And you have to set that as a precedent. So I think many times in that type of instance, council members have to put their personal differences aside, their personal beliefs at times, and vote on what they feel the public as a whole wants to see. And I think it's very, very indicative of the group that's here tonight that this is good for Wicomico County. I think if you're looking at how efficient government operates, efficiently, what happens when somebody tells you you're going to build a pickleball court, several pickleball courts, and 2 basketball courts, and you're not going to have to pay any money for it? Now, how much more efficient can our government get than to put ourselves in that position? So why would that be a problem? Why would there be any question as to whether you wanted to vote for it or not? There's no money involved for the taxpayers of Wicomico County. You're going to find out that there's a great enhanced quality of life in Wicomico County, because our number one job is to help people answer that question, what is there to do here? Well, this will be one more thing we have to do here. Huge, a big thing. In addition to that, I think we're really overlooking the fact this is a revenue generator. We've completely overlooked the fact this is, you're talking about Pony League, you're talking about Harmon Field, you're talking about the west side. How do we know that by the time we're done with this project, we'll have enough revenue to build a Harmon Field, to build another Pony League, to do what we need to do at the West Metro core? Because this is a revenue generator. No money down, nothing but rewards. So that's it to me. That's about as easy as it can get. So again, I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. I'm hoping that the council votes on this. I would expect it to be unanimous, and would like to move forward on this.
Mr. Holloway?
Have you, when this started, did you explore any other locations to build this many courts and any other, like?
We considered,
like it-
yes, we did consider other locations, but we, for a number of reasons, again, as I stated, decided that this was the best one.
Did you come up with any ideas of how many courts you could put, say, at Winter Place, or how many courts you could put at Henry Parker? Did you come up with those numbers?
Yeah, you could, Henry Parker, you couldn't do a lot. There's not a lot of vacant space out there anymore. So that's not really an option. But again, we did look at other county properties. We even looked at non-county properties, but it made too much sense. And with the partnership with the YMCA and the opportunity that's here, again, this makes all the sense in the world, in my opinion. And I don't want to speak for the executive, but we
had two boards, too.
Yes. Yeah, and I appreciate you mentioning that. Yeah, we vetted this project along with many other projects with our Recreation Parks Commission. It was unanimous. We took the extra step of vetting it with our Tourism Civic Center Commission. It was unanimous. Those folks spent many, many hours, many, many meetings looking at the different projects, different alternatives, and again, this was unanimous as far as those boards go. So.
Mr. President, I'd like to call the question, the resolution.
But, okay, we're not done. I'm going to
Well, I'm calling
make
it
a
a question.
statement. Well, thank you. I just want to make it perfectly clear that I'm not against pickleball or building new pickleball fields. I've stated that before. As you know, Delmarva Pony League is here tonight, and they've been growing, and they requested to lease the Harmon Field. The Delmarva Pony League currently has 300 kids, so that's about 300 families playing fall ball right now. And that's not including the spring. They requested the use of this field. We could easily lease it to them and find another location. Like I said, we've got 100 acres that we could build a pickleball court complex tomorrow. The Delmarva Pony League, like they mentioned, they want to do girls softball. They have girls that want to play softball. They have a need for men's softball. So the Harmon Field is a great location. Do you know what the value of that field is as it stands? Why can't we use some of the area that's behind the YMCA? A lot of that's not being used right now. Why can't we put pickleball fields there? Just a little over 2 years ago, we completed 3 baseball fields at the Henry Parker complex at the cost of $3 million. Did that make sense, building 3, when we ignored and neglected a perfectly good ball field, Harmon Field? Those 3 new fields at Henry Parker Complex are very nice fields, but they're not as nice as the Harmon Field. The Harmon Field has a 2-story brick concession stand and press box, has brick dugouts, has nice aluminum fields, has beautiful chain link fence all the way around it, has nice field. It's pretty smooth, and hardly any work would have to be done to it. This, to me, is one of the most fiscally irresponsible actions that this council can do. That park is probably worth $1 million. So if we destroy it and build pickleball courts on it at another 100, there's $2 million. Now the the Delmarva Pony League, they need a place. Letting them play somewhere else is not the same as giving them their own field. So if we end up building a field, that's another $1 million. That would be an opportunity cost of $3 million that we've wasted when we could easily build the pickleball court somewhere else. And again, I hear people out there saying something, but there's no need to destroy a perfectly good baseball field that's been there for nearly 100 years. And as somebody talked about basketball courts. There's plenty of room to put 2 or 3 more basketball courts out the Harmon Field. There's swings that aren't being used. This really isn't a good idea right now, but we'll call for the vote.
Mr. President, if I could ask very quickly, a constituent asked me, they were confused, and they were asking me whether or not the council had already sent a letter to the Board of Public Works requesting of the Board of Public Works that they cancel this project and not send the $700,000 to Wicomico County. Now, can you share with me what exactly that conversation is all about, what that entails?
You referring to me when I contacted them on my personal time? I sent them an email saying that we're not prepared for it at this time.
But you sent a letter as president.
That was several weeks ago.
Yes, it was several weeks ago before we had a public hearing. It was several weeks ago before the council had the opportunity for a work session or to even have a consensus on the project. And I just feel it's a disservice to the council and the constituents when the president of the council sending an email or sending a letter to the Board of Public Works as the president of Wicomico County Council, telling them that the council
I sent that letter as a representative of the citizens. The fact that we had this in front, this was not put in front of us, that they were asking for $700,000.
Your letter said that this is a project that has not been approved by the council. It said that several members had serious concerns about this project. My point being, Mr. President,
I'm glad you got my email, and you are correct. I sent it, and it hadn't
I didn't
been
get your
approved
email
yet.
from you. The other thing that concerns me is that when the county attorney made the request for you to let him see that letter, which the county attorney is allowed to do by charter, and you refused to send him that letter. And that letter should be shared with every member of this council. It should be shared with every member of this community. You can't unilaterally, as president, write to the Board of Public Works.
Again, Mr. Cannon, I didn't do it as president. I did it as an elected representative, just like you've sent letters before, just like other council members
No,
have sent
I've
letters
never
before.
sent that letter, and it states that it's Larry Dodd, president of the Wicomico County Council.
That was my signature line. I am the president.
It said president.
I am an elected member, just like you are, Mr.
Then you're acting as president, and not only did you send it, but then explain to me why you chose not to share it with anyone else when Mr. Wilbur asked you for it.
I wasn't ready to give it to Mr. Wilbur.
I would like you to make that letter public, if you don't mind.
Oh, it can be public.
It shocks me when I see a council member, especially a president, Mr. Dodd, who literally goes to the state of Maryland unilaterally and undermines this county council, undermines the citizens of Wicomico County.
And the county
tells them,
executive's office,
Do
too.
not, and
Council.
executives, and tells them, do not send us that $700,000.
I said we weren't prepared for it, but thank you. Wow. Any more comments?
I got a comment.
Mr. Davis.
You should abstain.
Mr. Davis.
Of course, normally I don't say much, but Mr. Miller brought up a point. One particular Saturday I was out. I had organized a trash cleanup on the west side, and we were there early in the morning, and we noticed there's a food truck that pulled up on the other side of the park, and a couple of people picked up. Said, "That for us?" I said, "No." So then we start seeing these people come, and more, and then they start marking up the basketball court. And I have noticed that the basketball court, the chains were tied up with bricks. I said, that don't look good. So Bumbo Steve comes, and he come over to me. I said, Steve, why are they tied up? He said, there's a pickleball tournament going on. Of course, me, I didn't know what pickleball was. I said, okay. So I said, how long is this going? He said, Saturday and Sunday. I said, well, Steve, we might have problems come Sunday. And he said, what do you mean? These basketball courts are used every Sunday morning by the area people, and they come religiously every Sunday. He said, well, things were told. I said, they don't know. So my thing is, we got to find a place for these people to play pickleball. And I can tell you, you guys don't want to tie up those chains at North Lake Park. Too many you got away with it that one Sunday, but you're not going to get away with too many Sundays. So my thing is, I mean, we got this money. It's going to be voted on tomorrow by Public Works. $700,000. The Y's got 300,000. I mean, I understand the baseball community, and my heart goes out to you. I wasn't a baseball player, but I know it's popular. But I only hope that, Steve, that you honor your word and work with those people and make sure you find a place for them to play. I mean, make sure it's a nice place close by and they're in agreement with it.
I'm going to hold you to that, Mr. Miller.
No, thank you.
Any more comments? Okay. Call for a vote. Roll call. Mr. Cannon.
Aye.
Mr. Hastings.
Aye.
Ms. Ackley.
Aye.
Mr. McCain.
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Holloway. What'd you say? Aye.
I'm going to vote for the money.
All right. You obviously know how I feel, and you want me to abstain. It doesn't make any difference, but I do think that the field should go to the Delmarva Pony League. But thank you, everyone. All right, next.
Okay, next is part 2 of this discussion. We have a public hearing on resolution number 118-2021. This is to enter into a license agreement with the Young Men's Christian Association of the Chesapeake, also known as the YMCA, to jointly renovate county property known as Harmon Field and to accept a donation from the YMCA in the amount of $300,000 and to amend the fiscal year 2022 capital budget and fiscal year 2022-2026 capital improvement plan to reflect the $300,000 donation to the Department of Recreation, Parks, and Tourism.
Okay, at this time, we're going to open the floor to a public hearing again. Any public comments, please limit them to 3 minutes. Please state your name and county of residence. Yes, and please don't be redundant because we already heard everyone a few minutes ago.
Good evening again. Josh West, Wicomico County. I know that's redundant, but we'll do it one more time. This is really easy for me. The reason why the majority of these people here are because they learned pickleball at the YMCA here in Salisbury. Leroy Lutz, Tom Pusey, they were the reasons why the pickleball community started, and they kept drawing more and more people in, growing to the population that you see today, and growing every day since. And the reason why is because I started at the YMCA. We still play at the YMCA, but the problem is we've literally outgrown that facility, and we're looking for places to play, and the YMCA is willing to partner with the county into furthering not only their membership, but the county as well. And all I'm asking for is the same thing that I asked for. Again, it's almost a no-brainer project, and we're using that word over and over because it's simplistic at its base, is that we have money available that's being offered up to further a facility to a community that needs it. The pickleball courts are great, yes. The basketball courts are great. There's a park as well. Like I said, it's a community park. And that's what we are. We're a community, not just pickleball, not just basketball, but Salisbury itself. And Salisbury itself has always been on the forefront of trying to better its community, and here we have the chance to do so again. I'm asking you, as I asked before, please vote yes to this portion of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. West. Do you have any more public comments?
Just one comment that I want to emphasize from earlier. This spring, we hosted a tournament up at the YMCA in Easton, 240 players. My estimate is that we made $10,000 in that tournament for the YMCA. This is a parks and rec facility, I understand it. 4 tournaments a year, you could easily clear between $9,000 and $15,000 per tournament.
Thank you very much. Do you have any more public comments? Any more public comments? Okay. This time we're going to close the floor to public comments. Need a motion to approve resolution number 118-2021.
So moved.
And who was second? You, Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
All right. Any discussion? Any discussion?
I'd like to say something. Actually, I called Paul Wilbur earlier today. There are several issues with the licensing agreement, and I've made them known. They are not in this. This simply says $300,000 contribution from the Y. So he and I discussed the fact that we would ask the council to kick that to us to work on the agreement, but doesn't affect this vote. Because this vote doesn't say all the things that are in the agreement. So we would want to put that forward and bring it back for approval.
Okay, wait for Ms. Ackley before the vote. Is there any comment on what the council attorney stated? Mr. Hastings.
Thank you for being that thorough with that, Mr. Mitchell. We appreciate it.
Mr. Hastings.
Yeah, I was just going to get clarity on what you just said. Were you saying that you're going to, won't affect this vote for this situation, but you'd like to, you and the county attorney would like to discuss further?
Right. This simply says that the council would accept the $300,000 contribution. The license agreement, as it's been put forward, has payment terms, and it also says $300,000, but not to 50% of the cost of the pickleball-related development not to exceed $300,000, which is not the same as accepting $300,000. Plus, there's no definition of what that pickleball development cost relates to, how much of it's that and not basketball, whatever. So that's what we would like to hammer out and get straight. So it ends up being a straight $300,000 contribution at some point, and that the money's present before, as Mr. Miller said, they wouldn't go forward without it. So we want to make sure it's there before they get to that point.
I'm fine with you and Mr. Wilbur working that out. And one quick comment before we do vote on this. I mean, I want everyone to really recognize, and I just want to thank the YMCA. I mean, the YMCA runs multiple programs all throughout Delmarva. So there's a lot of places they can, place their money and place their energies, and they recognize the importance this is to our community. And, they've stepped forward. This is very unprecedented, to see an organization, this is really a government project, it's Wicomico County's project, and for the Y to step up and say, we're willing to make this happen. I think it's just very commendable. So, I hope everyone certainly shows some appreciation to the YMCA for doing that.
I would agree. I would agree, Councilman McCain. The great brass ring of public service is public-private partnership. I mean, I've been since like 2006. I've been in this game, and that doesn't come around very often, where you actually get public cooperation, businesses that want to help the government move forward. And the YMCA, this is such a great thing on their part. I'd like to thank them as well for what they're doing, and take full advantage of this and make it work.
Mr. Holloway?
We heard from both sides.
Mr. Holloway, if you can.
Excuse me. We heard from both sides tonight with concerns, and Mr. Miller has stated that he's going to work with the Pony League. I'm going to base my vote on that, okay? But I'm going to keep on top of it. I'm going to talk to those gentlemen, and I surely hope that you do what you say you're going to do.
All right. And it's exactly how I feel. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any more comments?
Oh, one more thing.
Yes, sir.
Larry, I don't know about the letter. I heard a little bit about it. You probably shouldn't have done it. I probably would have done it if I wanted to. But we hadn't voted on any of this. We hadn't had public hearings on it when you sent this letter, correct? I mean, we weren't ready for this money, right?
That's correct. Absolutely.
I mean, it wasn't there. So I'm not trying to defend you or criticize you, but, when it should be, as far as convincing the council to do something, it's a lot more convincing to have an unobjective thoughts if the money's out there or not out there. If somebody comes and says, all right, we already got it, I mean, it would have been harder for us to be more objective, I think. So I don't agree with you doing it, but I probably might have done the same thing.
All right.
Larry, you'll share the letter with Joe so he can get the full understanding of what that letter entailed.
Absolutely. And you've got a copy of it, don't you?
I have something from a text message. I'd rather see the full thing, as with the rest of the council.
All right, thank you very much. Now it's time for a vote.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Before you vote, I just want to clarify with Mr. Mitchell, this resolution is to enter into that license agreement as well as the donation of the $300,000. Is there anything that needs to be amended in the resolution to say that it would come back, or maybe to say in substantially the same form, or just to make sure that we're clear on process?
Yeah, I think it should say that to enter into a license agreement which carries forth the provisions of the resolution to be presented for further review or.
I think it's substantially the same form.
Can you use the mic, Mr.
Yeah.
Could be
Wilbur?
substantially.
Right. We can make the necessary adjustments, but I think we need a vote on that resolution
Oh, I agree. I agree on that.
as written.
I have a question, in the agreement, it says that it is not a partnership. I'm not going to pull the agreement up, but one of the lines specifically says it's not a partnership. Okay? But in the minutes from Mr. Miller's testimony when we first started, it states twice that it is a partnership. So why is it not considered a partnership in just an agreement?
Because it's going to be Wicomico County's pickleball project,
Okay.
right? And the YMCA is a partner to the extent that they're putting money in, but they're not going to be running. You know, Wicomico is going to build it, and Wicomico is going to run it. That's my understanding. Yeah.
So if Wicomico builds it, Wicomico runs it.
Right. And the YMCA is generously bringing $300,000 to the project.
Yeah, and I'll also note that they're going to help program it. And that's a big part of it, is that they're going to have the ability to do programming.
And can you explain that? Because I was going to ask you, I believe at one of the previous meetings that you said the YMCA was going to give staffing to run the pickleball courts.
So there's a couple things. One, because they're in such close proximity to Harmon Field, they will help oversee the field if there was ever an issue. They have front desk staff there, I believe, till 9 or 10 o'clock at night whenever they're closed. So they're going to help just in general oversight. But in terms of programming, that's something that we've agreed to work on cooperatively together so that we're not duplicating services. So for example, you could do youth clinics, you could do leagues, you could do adult programs, you can do tournaments. That's something that we're going to work in the agreement. It's laid out that we would cooperatively work to make sure we're not doing the same stuff. So they would be part of that equation, running YMCA programs. And I'll reiterate what I said at the last session. Whatever programs we run there, whether it's the county administering the program with county staff or the Y administering a program, we'll always have courts open for open play. So if someone just wants to come, drop in and play, that will be available to folks all the time, with the exception of a major tournament. If you have a major event, you'd probably use every court that you have. So.
You did say that there would be a couple courts available if there
Yes.
was a tournament.
No, I think tournaments would be the only exception where you might not have courts
I thought I
available.
recalled you saying that during a tournament, but that's fine.
Yeah.
What did you say we were going to do, 12 fields or courts?
12 courts, yes, sir.
Okay.
That's our plan.
Now, can the citizens go there to play anytime they want? Do they have to check in with us? Do they have to, with the Civic Center, do they have to check in with the YMCA?
No, it'd be open for play, just like you could go.
So I can bring my
shoot hoops
kids
at
there and
Harmon
play?
Field. Yeah, you can show up and play.
Okay.
Yep.
Any more questions on that before we have the vote? Ms. Hurley, did you have any more on that? Did you have an understanding?
No, I think there needs to be a motion to amend that resolution
Okay.
to say
Substantially.
in the same form.
So we have a
As
motion
the
for an
council has
amendment.
done
Well,
before.
see, the actual wording doesn't say, it just says the license agreement. It doesn't say attached or anything like that, so. Yeah, but I think in its substantive form as presented is fine.
Right.
All right.
As attached.
No,
As to be it.
right?
So do we need a motion or not?
Yes.
One says yes, okay. Can we have a motion to amend this?
Oh, no, I thought Mr. Mitchell said that we don't have to amend it. Is that correct?
So we do.
No, I think,
Said that, Mr. Wilbur said different.
see, no,
What do we do?
I tell you.
Laura's correct, that it says the license agreement, but it didn't say attached. I wasn't looking at that fact that it would be
You
there.
can add that.
So I think it would be, you would be voting to accept the license agreement in substantial form as attached
Right.
to fulfill the purposes of the resolution.
So moved.
I don't know
Second.
who you're pointing at.
Motion second.
All right, got a motion and a second.
Probably YMCA.
Who is it?
Probably YMCA, right? If you, I don't know if you'd like to,
1 second, please.
Yes, sir.
he's putting it on.
Don't normally do this, but
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead.
Robbie Gill, CEO of the YMCA of the Chesapeake. Just to clarify, any change on our behalf, any change to the agreement, our board will have to review that, just so we're on the same page. Our board has approved the agreement as written. Any shifts to that, that'll have to go back to them. So I just want to clarify.
So we had a motion and a second for an amendment.
Yes.
All right, all in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye. Okay, now we're going to have a vote on the resolution as amended. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Chair votes aye as amended. Thank you.